730 days. 730 days is the amount of time it has been since the Deepwoken developers initially published the poll asking what content we'd like to see first. This, of course, is the first time we get a notable mention of the game mode Conquest. It has gone through ups and downs, multiple delays, multiple setbacks, as we are now approaching almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years almost since they announced that Conquest was in development. It'll be over a year since they announced that it was just a few weeks away. And the question on everyone's mind is what happened? Where is Conquest? Following the Agamatsu stream that sort of brought light to a lot of the issues, we can quickly go over some of the things that we know to be absolutely certain. First of all, Conquest is nowhere near complete. Casual mode for Conquest, which was supposed to be an introduction to the mode and give casual, more, laid-back players of Deepwoken a fun way to interact with the game mode without having to prepare or jump into the hyper-competitive nature that would be a 5v5 game mode with advanced rewards. We now know that, of course, casual mode is not in development. It never was in development. Not an ounce of development has been put into the casual mode. It has not been tested. Nothing is complete. They don't even know what systems they would use to create the casual mode. What else do we know? As we now have come to find out, Conquest was not always in development behind the scenes. What it seems like was the sort of course of action being taken is that the developers would get a burst of motivation. They'd hold a meeting, they'd all come together, they'd put in a ton of work on Conquest, they'd hit a roadblock or they'd hit a bug, and then they'd just fuck off. The other devs would go to their other games, or they'd work on different updates for Deepwoken, or what it seems like now, they just wouldn't do anything. Archmage is the only one keeping the game together. So when you're saying, it's been 3 years, man, where's Conquest? It's more accurate to say that the developers have maybe put in a year of work into it, and then it just kind of sat. As we now know, I won't divulge my sources as to protect their anonymity, but they're currently not working on Conquest. We're in another one of those cycles where they hit a roadblock and just fuck off. Currently, the game mode is just collecting dust with nothing being done, and that is... I felt an actual pain in my chest saying that, because you'd think, well, if they're not working on Conquest, they're working on other big things, or like the weekly updates are going to be really hitting. And that's certainly not what's happening. Certainly not what's happening. Those are the things we know for certain about Conquest. We also know that it was incredibly difficult to test. It was hard to get 10 testers to play it, which is... People bring up Cursed Gear. A lot of the people in Cursed Gear are not Deepwoken testers. Those are not mutually exclusive things. Though, when that is brought up, there's a sentiment, or there's the understanding that, well, clearly you guys can get 130 people to go and play a Rags game. Like, you have trusted, dedicated people willing to play your games. Where are the deep testers? Because you have a shit ton of deep testers. Do you mean to tell us that a ton of the testers, like the Wave 1s, have the title for clout and they don't even fucking do anything? That's how it feels as an average player. Like, where are the testers? What do you mean not every tester was playing Conquest? That is their job. And if they hold the title just because they tested the game 4 years ago in Wave 0, that's nonsensible. Get new people in here, man. Get people who are active and passionate about your game. Let's get some stuff done. Okay. Moving in to actually what we know about the game mode mechanically. Because I know a lot of people aren't familiar with MOBAs, and I've sort of come to shed some light on that as I've played League of Legends and Dota, and I've done the whole 9. Conquest serves kind of like League of Legends. It's a 3-lane map with a top lane, mid lane, bot lane, and a jungle. Typically what you're going to see is you're going to see 2 top, 1 mid, 2 bottom. So you have 2 people in the top lane, 2 people in the bottom lane, and then 1 person solo in the mid lane. That is typically how it plays out in MOBAs when you are missing one more key role, the jungle. The jungle exists as the in-between, between the lanes. It's a free roaming area where you would have a jungler. The jungler will fight monster camps to get their experience and level up their build, in the case of Deepwoken, to get their talents and items back, while the other laners will fight minions and the player opposite to them, the enemy laner. What we know is that the jungle is not even done. They have nothing done in terms of developing the jungle. Now, to the average people, that doesn't sound like that big of a problem. To people who play MOBAs, you know that jungle is fundamental to the game. Jungle is one of the most important roles in the terms of actually developing the game, because it's almost a no man's land. Anyone can enter the jungle. It's used for ganking. Perhaps your top laners are losing to the enemy top laners. They're losing the 2v2. Your jungler is able to come out of the jungle and gank, making it a 3v2 and changing the tide of the fight. Additionally, there are objectives in the jungle that aren't technically controlled by any team, and with the way the game plays, you are funneled into the jungle to fight for them. In League of Legends, this is the Baron, which gives you a temporary buff, and the Dragon, which gives you a permanent buff. These are fundamental to how the game plays. There is nothing done for it. The jungle doesn't exist. Additionally, we know that Conquest is incredibly laggy. There used to be 6 minions in each lane, and they come in waves. Now it is down to 1 minion per wave because of lag issues. How the hell can the jungle even exist when at all times you need 3 jungle camps per corner? So technically, you have 12 jungle camps up at all times, 14 if you count the boss buffs. There's no way that, I don't know what they were thinking. The jungle's not even done, and I don't even think it can be done because of lag limitations. It's just nonsensical. And if that's the case, the jungle doesn't exist, and you're doing like an all random, all mid, or 2 top, 1 mid, 2 bot. This, what was the point? How do you even handle that? How do you handle roaming between lanes? Is it just a war zone, just an open flat area with no junglers? Because then it just takes up memory. It just takes up space. There's no reason for it to be there. There's so many questions that the developers and the testers were never asking during this entire process, during these 3 years that Conquest was being talked about. Take, for example, actually leveling up in the game. As we know for Conquest, what happens is that you can kill players or kill minions and get essence. The essence is used to buy back your talents and progress the build. Well, something that nobody seems to have an answer for is how do you handle the experience split? For example, if you have 2 people in one lane, and we know that only 1 minion spawns, who kills the minion? Who gets the experience? How do you handle that? Does one person get all the experience, and the other person gets none? Is it split in half? How do you determine who gets what? There's so many questions that were never answered, that still are not answered. Very fundamental, simple things. The baseline of a MOBA. The Deepwoken developers don't play MOBAs. They have no experience with MOBAs, and then they tried to make one. And MOBAs are notoriously incredibly difficult to develop. League of Legends is a multi-billion-dollar company behind it, Riot, with the best developers in the world. They created the fucking genre damn near, and they can't balance their game. It has incredible difficulty when it comes to balancing and enjoyment. The pro players for League of Legends don't even play live patch. They play the previous patch because it would be impossible to balance and play around if you were going on a weekly balance schedule. It's so hard. You could change one number value on one card, and it would fucking cascade and destroy the entire game mode. They're so meticulous. I don't know why they did this, and I don't know why a year into this, when they realized it was far above their pay grade, they didn't give up and do something else. It's like, I don't know what it was. If it was ego, there is a universe, and we talk about this in the Deepwoken YouTuber chat. I said this the other night when we were all talking. There is a universe where they just never did Conquest, or they gave up 6 months in when they realized how hard it would be. We would have Layer 3 right now. We would have the Central Luminant. We would have the Void Tower. There are so many massive updates that the developers are experienced with that we could have had already. And instead, all of this time and energy was wasted on fucking what? There's nothing to show for it. Honestly, Conquest, it just needs to be given up on. Just fucking scrap it, man. Cut your losses, admit it was a fuck up, and then really move towards making content that you're experienced in, that the community is gonna love. Because Conquest wasn't even what the community wanted to begin with. Oh man.